I felt hesitant making this video, like I felt hesitant making the very first. But I guess fear can be an omen. So here it is. If you want to succeed in life, your life needs to be balanced. We all know that. We all understand that. We don't all live by it, because it is pretty difficult to balance everything in your life. And I always thought that pleasure was a product of balance. If you live a balanced life, you will feel the pleasure of that life. I now know that pleasure itself has an opposite and it needs to be balanced. I didn't suspect that that very human thing, was the opposite of pleasure. But now I do know, and now that I know, it does make incredible amount of sense. I've read about it in the Red Book. And I read that piece and it lingered in my mind all day. And it often got me thinking about this industry, this hobby. You see, a lot of people are quitting. And I think they quit because they think too much. That's the opposite. Forthinking. Forthinking is the opposite of pleasure. And if you think too much about this industry, if you think about what's going to work, how can I make sure people buy my animals? How can I make sure that people like me for who I am? How can I make what people want? That's it. How can I make what people want? Before you can answer that, you have to know, what do you want? When you started out in this industry, or when you started out in this hobby, when you didn't view it as an industry, what made you do that? What was your driving motivation? It was pleasure, I hope. If not, if you always saw this as a money-making thing, you will not succeed here. So you will not succeed in anything, to be honest, if you approach life that way. So if that was your aim, get out. If not, it was pleasure. You felt pure pleasure acquiring your animal. You stared at it for hours and hours, looking at every detail. You felt pleased, you felt pleasure, you felt amazed, and whoa. It lingered in your mind. It actually goes for every hobby, even beyond the reptiles, right? Hopefully this video can make sense for everybody. If you feel like you need to get out of this industry because you feel like you can't compete with everybody that is doing the same thing, step back and go back to pleasure. Open up a tub, stare at your animal, feel those emotions that you felt before. Because pleasure is the opposite of forthinking. Forthinking is the poison of pleasure. If you think too much, you will poison your pleasure and it will die. If you never think, your pleasure will die. If you never think and you only follow your pleasure, you only want to feel those things and you never think about consequences or what ifs and hows, you will also become unbalanced, of course, and you will also not make it. Now you might wonder, what drawed you into forthinking? What robbed you of your pleasure? And I think for a big part, it is insecurity. But for another big part, it is the serpent. of desire. It pulled you away from pleasure into thinking. And then, because of social media, most likely, you see all the great things other people have, so you become a little bit insecure, and thinking feels like a safe option, not knowing that it's poisoning your pleasure. So if you feel like you need to quit because you cannot compete, seek your serpent. Where is it? It's most likely far down in the pleasure side, very deep. So go back to your serpent of desire, walk into pleasure again, feel it, embrace it, and then when it's time, follow your serpent again, and he will draw you back to for thinking. He will draw you back to making plans, to finding the key that will unlock your future. Those two things we can call principles. Pleasure you would therefore probably describe as an emotion, but it's not. It is a principle. You can feel it, but it's not yours. The same goes for thoughts, for thinking in general, and if you do too much for overthinking. At some point in life, if you linger on these two principles, you will gain an understanding about them. You will gain an understanding that thoughts are not you. They're also not even yours. They are just a part of this world, just like the animals and the trees, and you can perceive them, but you are not the thoughts, and the thoughts are not you. They depend on the world around you for their existence. The same goes for pleasure. The pleasure you feel is not solely yours. The pleasure you feel is not only yours. It depends on the world around you. It depends probably on the people around you, hopefully on the people around you. It cannot exist without the world. It cannot exist only inside of you. It is detached from you. It is not you. You can perceive it like the same way as you can see a tree, but it is not you. If you gain that understanding, you will come back in the world, and before you no longer slithers a serpent, pulling you with desire from one side to the other, and for the other back to the one. Your serpent of desire is now transformed into a lion. A lion who walks a straight path because he knows the way to your future. He's no longer seeking the key to unlock the future because he is the key. You now will be guided by power.